everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And we're here at the HFMA annual conference, and our guest is Mo Weitnauer. She's the chief product officer at MRO. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited for this discussion. Before we dive in, tell us a little bit about yourself and MRO.
Sure. So as you said, I'm the Chief Product Officer at MRO, and what that means is that I help build and support our clients with new products and the adoption of our products so that we can improve their processes.
Awesome. Well, here at HFMA, you have a big announcement. It's the launch of a new solution called Payer Exchange. What challenges were you hearing from customers that led MRO to develop Payer Exchange?
Sure. Yes, we're very excited about Payer Exchange. We launched it just yesterday. And Payer Exchange, what it solves for health systems is a couple of things. So first, health systems have really been experiencing a lot of increases in volume of medical record requests. So you have payers, you have patients, you have continuity of care, other physicians asking for medical records. And the solution automates that entire process from start to finish, from when the requester, in this case could be a payer, to the health system releases the records. It's fully digital, touchless. So that's the first thing. The second bit is health systems really have a lot of fluctuation in volume. So because risk adjustment and HEDIS requests are seasonal requests, you think about a health system somewhere in Maine, they're not in a big town. They can't just go out and hire a whole bunch of people on the spot.
There's
nobody to hire. So what the solution does is that it reduces that seasonality, and because it's all fully digital through FHIR interfaces, they don't have to go out and hire. They can just manage the volume as it comes and not have to do surge hiring. And then lastly, it's because there's so many different types of requesters, there's very specific types of data that can or cannot be shared. And so the solution provides high accuracy for the health system to be able to manage. So let's say you don't want, HIV information or reproductive health information to be shared. We call it looking in the envelope. We look in the envelope and just make sure that we're not sending out things that you wouldn't want to be shared with your payer or whoever is asking.
Yeah, which also applies to the minimum necessary too.
Exactly.
And what are the big pain points there? Is it just the volume or is it diversity? Talk about some of the pain points that Payer Exchange really addresses.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit. So there's the volume increases to be able to manage all of that with staff, the inefficiencies that health systems have experienced, the turnaround times. So oftentimes a payer needs to audit a claim or needs to get their risk adjustment volume out the door. And so they'll keep calling the health system. So that's a real pain. So with this solution, we can actually have the requester be able to do through an API, call us to see where the record is, and it gives them an automatic status. So there's no more need for a phone call, no more need for them to, bang on our doors all the time. And then the other piece, as you said, is actually the diversity of the types of requests. So, there's patients, different types of patients with different languages. You have risk adjustments, HEDIS, audits. There's just a ton of different types of requests. And then also ensuring minimum necessary, as you said. So not over-releasing, not under-releasing, but just making sure that we're providing the right records at the right time to the right people who should have the access to the data.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talked about the staffing issues of, kind of the spike in requests and how do you manage that with staffing. But there's also staffing shortages, and I think this is across all of healthcare, not just medical records or whatever. And so we need to be more efficient. That's a theme across every conference that I go to. What do you see as some of the time-saving results that you expect going forward for both providers and payers?
Sure. So because of some of these requests, let's take risk adjustment, for example. So there's a season. Payers have to provide the records to CMS, get them coded within a finite amount of time. In a typical risk adjustment, it could take days, even weeks, to get the record from the EHR. If it's a paper record, gosh, it takes even longer, out to the payer. With our solution, that process goes down to minutes or even seconds, because we just do a FHIR call, check that that's a patient and the dates of service that we can get. Once we can verify that it's there, boom, the record goes out. So it's a really dramatic time savings for both the provider and the payer. And then the payer is guaranteed that they'll be able to get their records during the period of time, their window that they have.
That's awesome. I mean, an API call versus a phone call, we know which is faster.
Yes, indeed.
I think we'd all be happy to get rid of phone calls.
For sure.
Except for maybe my mom.
And mine too. Yes.
Yeah. So, I had an opportunity to interview your CEO, Jason Brown, at HIMSS, a few months ago. And he also talked about kind of that focus on innovating the data exchange between payers and providers, which, interoperability in healthcare is a lot of, a huge topic. But payer exchange is an important part of this effort for MRO. What else is ahead for MRO to advance MRO's interoperability and your data exchange capabilities in healthcare, and maybe share what's on the future radar screen?
Sure. So there's a lot ahead of us. So payer exchange was just the beginning. And what we're trying to do is really take that solution and deploy interoperability at scale for various use cases. Mm-hmm. Payer exchange for the launch that we just did at HFMA is only focused for now at risk adjustment. We're going to be tackling HEDIS next. And then it really opens up, audits, being able to release records as soon as not even a claim has been done, but as prepay before the payer has to come back.
Wow.
Other pieces is patients. We know that there's a lot of diversity in America. Patient requests in different languages. We just deployed one solution for our regular release of information in Spanish.
Okay.
So that a patient can have Spanish language, be able to see how to request a record in Spanish. But, we have people who speak Portuguese, who speak Arabic, all kinds of languages. So we're going to be looking at how to cater to all those other languages so that we can serve our clients better. And then lastly, we're looking at other types of use cases, especially when it comes to different types of requests. So if you think about imaging, so sometimes you have lawyers who request not just the record, but an image. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking to deploy over the next coming weeks or months, or some of them might take a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, and I love the thing about MRO that I love is that, you came from a kind of release of information background, but the way you've bridged into the payer side and the financial side is really interesting. I think, they need to be integrated, right?
Absolutely.
Because those access to those records is what justifies the payment. And I imagine that's what you've seen, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the payers and providers have always been a little bit at odds, and it really doesn't make sense because their objectives should be aligned. And so us at MRO, we're really thinking of ourselves as clinical data exchange, not just one direction going to the other. We want to make sure that whatever the provider is releasing, they also get value out of that transaction, and that they get some intelligence back from the payer that will be able to help them with patient care or managing their operations. And then the other piece is just reducing friction. There's just far too much friction between payers and providers today, and we want to bridge that gap between the two parties.
Absolutely. Well, Mo, I appreciate you taking time to share these insights and perspectives. You have a real understanding of this problem, so thanks so much for taking time, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcast application. Thanks, Mo.
Thanks for having me.